Today we're joined by someone who has become one of Europe's most respected voices in the evolution of the data center industry. Isabelle Kemlin is the Senior Business and Innovation Lead at RISE, the Research Institute of Sweden, as well as Vice Chair of the Swedish Data Center Association and the European Data Center Association. Isabelle brings a uniquely holistic view of the sector, combining technical expertise, sustainability strategy, and a genuine passion for collaboration. She's been instrumental in driving Sweden's position as a global hub for responsible, energy-efficient data centres, and has long championed the connection between innovation, research, and crucially people. Isabelle, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Very kind of you. Yeah,
no problem. So talk to us about how you have got to be in the position of influence and insight that you're in currently, because it's rarely a linear path into these roles. So talk to us a bit about your career.
Well, we can start off with education, actually. I have a Master of Science in Industrial Engineering and Management. It's kind of an education where you still have the feet in two pots. You have one in with economics and management, and the other one is more on the technical side. And that is actually where I've been my whole career. So bringing technology together and translating sometimes that language into a business language. Yeah, I've been in many different industries, but got really hooked on the data center industry, which I've been now in 8-9 years, and it is really a super exciting industry to be in, because there are so many things happening.
Yeah, and was that with the role with CBRE GWS, you kind of found yourself on the data center side, or was it a deliberate move?
No, actually, it was not a deliberate move. It was I got into CBRE, and then there it was actually there was my first assignment there was to work, and I had the Ericsson kind of account in EMEA. But of course, there is a lot of data centers as well. And the Nordics was growing, so they decided to have one business unit up in the Nordics for data centers. And then I got to lead that one, which was very, in a period when things are happening a lot.
Yeah.
And Isabelle, I was going to ask as well, because you asked me when we were in Amsterdam, and we were on the panel discussion that was all talent focused, which was great, by the way. And the first question you asked to each of us was, what was your first job, and how do you feel that might have relate to what you're doing now, or maybe it's kind of impacted a little bit how you do your day-to-day job currently, or maybe it doesn't at all, but equally maybe what you learned along the way there. I'm just intrigued, because there was definitely there was a variety of answers across us on the panel. So I'm intrigued for yourself.
Yeah, well, I also have a little bit of a different job as my first job. I was driving tractor at a field harnessing peat. And it was like this big with double wheels, because it could not sink into the pit, and you were driving like 2-3 kilometers per hour for 15 minutes in one direction, and then you turned, and then you did the same thing in the other direction, and then you went and kind of emptied what you had gathered. It was you only worked, this was in a summer job, and you only worked when it was really nice weather. So you when it was raining, you were having time off. But I think this kind of led me, well, I've seen then in a way the heat reuse on a very close distance, because it was actually the peat who was going to a district heating company, and they were using that as a source. But what I think I learned there, and you can always look back in the mirror and say, that was a good thing there. But actually working in a team and also being in an environment which was very male dominated. As we say in Sweden, you have to have thick skin on your nose. Just to, I would say also how you can make a job that is kind of it's very routine job, but you can really also have fun, and how important your colleagues are. So there, yeah, a lot of things happening there as well.
And interesting as well.
I did not see that. I did not see that.
Did I? No, that's brilliant. But interesting as well how that job equally, you know, because it was the harvesting peat, and actually that was then being used in a sustainable way. Just interesting how, you know, again, from your educational background as well, and how that's now maybe linking into some of the stuff that you're doing currently from the research perspective, I'm sure with you know, initiatives there in terms of reusing energy and so on and so forth. Quite interesting to be literally kind of on the ground, you know, hands-on, you know, involved in that, compared to maybe sort of how you're doing it now, which is probably quite different.
Yeah, it was really hands-on, and I think that is something that I also, you know, being able to socialize and be with everyone, no matter what kind of work or what kind of background. And there are so many good, you know, there if you scratch the surface of each and everyone, there is always something that unique person can bring to the table. And I think that is also something that you know, it's stays with me and have been staying in my leadership roles going forward.
I bet. And tell us a bit about the work that you're doing currently, because you've got such an interesting oversight of so many different facets within our industry. So tell us a bit about the work that you're doing with RISE and the associations.
Yeah, so if I start with RISE, well, first of all, my background is not research. So I've been leading teams in what I say critical environments for the last, well, for 15 years. And that has been everything from mining, like real mining, not data mining, but iron mining, both underground and open mine. It was for a supplier, but it was also pumps and ventilation. And then it's been I was overseeing all the maintenance and project work for Telia's telecom, both the fixed and mobile network. And that was also, you know, taking care of the facilities. So it could be an antenna with a box, or it could be a full-scale data center. And then, half of the hospitals in Stockholm. So there have been many different environments. And then for almost 6 years, I was overseeing the work in the Nordics for data centers, the operations of it. And I think coming in with an operation hat now working, I kind of really wanted to be in the, you know, see something else in the value chain. I find this industry super fascinating, so I wanted to stay in this industry. And now working for RISE, I think this is it's the same companies, but it's no longer as a supplier supporting them with their business for their operations. Now it's a little bit the same, but supporting their research departments. So what we actually do is that we have researchers that, you know, some of them take selfies with them they are really well known in the industry when they are in conferences on thermal management. And we have also a research facility. So it's not just that we have we don't just produce reports. We build stuff, we test it, and then we analyze and come kind of with our conclusions. So my role there is to actually work with the industries, and because we're state owned, but we are not we don't just get a pile of money from the state and then they say, go do some research. We're kind of in between the academia and the industry, and we're supposed to do very applied research and help the companies to grow, and the industries. And of course, Sweden, since we're in Sweden, but for example, with data centers, if we would only look at companies working within data center sector in Sweden, it would not be that many. So our overarching goal is to advance the industry itself. And we do that through research work. It can be EU funded or state funded, but it can also be direct funded by companies. And if so, then those companies will own the results, because what we gain is insight, and we help them by having a really good researchers and also a facility to test in. And there we're kind of involved in the whole value chain. So from when the power comes in to the data center itself with, for example, cooling, to also the heat reuse. So we have a 1,000 square meter of test bed, which we're doing some really exciting things. And we just got approval to build out. So we will be able to do tests like for electricity with like 2 megawatts of power, and also heat reuse, we see it probably 5 megawatts, which is not that many that have that capacity in the world. Of course, the for example, hyperscalers or companies themselves have their own research departments, but for being like a neutral ground where different actors actually can come together, this is quite unique. So that gives kind of an insight from a research perspective. And then I'm engaged also, it's actually started off with the, I saw that there was a gap in the Swedish market, because I had a Nordic responsibility at CBRE. And I saw that Sweden did not really have a voice from bringing the industry together in an association. So I was part of founding the Swedish Data Center Industry Association 2019. Today we have more than 100 members, and it's really exciting journey. But that actually made us to have a voice also in the Nordics, because that was kind of what I wanted to bring together, because in the Nordics we have so many similarities. And I do think that it's important that we work closely together. So actually today we have an informal, that it's not an official like organization on top of or something like that. It's informal, but we meet every second week, and in a smaller kind of steering group. But then there is a lot of activities going on where we share and help each other. And we also do common things together. For example, now we have a Sustainable Nordic AI Infrastructure Forum coming up, which will be in Oslo. So we kind of work together and share and help each other, because we truly believe that there are so many things we can do. That actually also led to that we became, so European Data Center Association opened up for 4 national associations to become members. And then we were applying, and also did the other Nordic countries. And in that process, they also opened up for 3 seats for board members from the associations. I am now representing not only the Nordics, but of course all the national associations in the board of the European Data Center Association. So that's also super exciting, because of course what's happening is right now there are some really big challenges ahead, not only from a regulation perspective, but also from a look at, for example, the situation with power. And yeah, we are heavily engaged in this. And I think just the fact that, you know, the decisions on how laws are going to and regulations are going to pile out, they are really set at an early stage before it becomes a regulation from EU. And we need to be there, and we need to help the authorities to make the right decision. Well, I would say to make informative decisions. So we need to help them to understand what implications their decisions might have if they go in one way or another. And yeah, this is where I do see that our the commitment for the industry and for me personally to make it also have the hat of sustainability in all of this is at least driving me and makes me so passionate about this.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a really clear purpose there, isn't there? And if you've got, you know, through those associations, a seat at the table, you know, this is critical infrastructure for the entire world. Like that's a really exciting time to be involved. And are you finding, you know, from a regulatory perspective, are mindsets changing? And are there any who are particularly progressive, without calling anybody out in a negative way? But I'm just interested to understand, you know, where there's some real success or wins and influence that you can maybe talk about.
Yeah, well, many different areas. I think that the key here is if we look at our industry, just a couple of years ago, we were trying to make our voice heard, that we are important.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, okay, you are the heart of the digital infrastructure. And on top of that came kind of AI. And then suddenly what I see a little bit all over, from having no one talking about the infrastructure for example, AI, it was never mentioned. You only talk about the application, and what's suddenly the infrastructure layer is now becoming the key thing for everyone to discuss. So here I think it's utmost important that we are engaged, because now suddenly there is a lot of others that want to say that, oh, we know this, and we know exactly how it works with this. But there are so many things that you need to consider, and I think to keep the conversations going are of utmost importance. So with AI, that is a little bit changing, because how can I explain this in a very simple way, simplistic way? What AI is doing, instead of having a data center like a normal cloud data center where you have hundreds and hundreds of servers that works, and some of them are on and off, but they are working as individuals. With AI, what you really want to do is that you want to synchronize all of those so that they work together as one big brain. And when that happens, if things goes on and off, you no longer get a little spike here and there because of its individuals. No, you can get really big spikes when the data center is on and suddenly off. And we need to work in a smart way here, and we need to work together with the grid owners and the grid providers, net providers, to make sure that we have a grid that is functioning, but also that we get access to more power.
Yeah.
It's so important that all of that work that you're doing through the associations, that you're able to kind of bring those people together and actually be a part of helping to inform those decisions that are being made, so that you can provide the context. And then added to that, with the research that you're doing, there's kind of further context of what you can potentially see coming down the line as well, in terms of technical advancements and so on, and what that's going to mean to, you know, infrastructure and power and so on and so forth. I mean, what a unique position that you're in there, that is so vital to actually how things are going to be moving forward over the next few years, you know, in Europe, the Nordics, and beyond.
How do you think the industry can kind of better harness, if you're thinking about the human factor within the industry, which is obviously what we become slightly obsessive about at Capstone, because we're obsessive about talent, you know, and the speed with which the technology is evolving is outpacing everything, and the skills development, so on and so forth. What's your view on the skills that we need to future-proof, the skills that are needed rather, in order to future-proof the industry?
So we need to, you know, there are so many positions or different roles that we need to fill. Of course, having been on the operational side, for running a data center, and when we did build up teams in the Nordic, for example, what we did was to look at nearby critical industries. For example, in Norway, oil and gas, or in Sweden, we have pulp and paper, and forest. Like there is a mining. There are a lot of different sectors where you also are used to work being able to work in a data center is not just to go in and, you know, do some work. You first need to, oh, there is something happening, I need to look at the process, and then I go and do some work. So you really need to be mindful, because it's such a we can never ever go down. The data centers can never ever go down. So I think, but we will see some tremendous how do you say, development also, thanks to AI on how you work. But still, there are people that are needed with these kind of skills: electricians, mechanical engineers. But also, I think super important is from a software system perspective, that you're comfortable with all the new, like being a mechanical engineer today is not just doing mechanical works. You need to have a lot of kind of knowledge of some kind of software understanding as well, because you're working with these very high-tech machines. But then also in the next layers, there are people who are overseeing the work. We need the project leaders. We need people who are really skilled at commissioning. We need, you know, building a data center itself. For example, in one of the biggest data centers in Sweden, if you don't look at the hyperscalers, but the Echo data center, like their site, they foresee that they will be a construction site for the 10 coming years. So they need construction workers, and they have on one of their, you know, key positions in their management team is someone with a in-depth construction background, because that is what's needed for a long unforeseeable time period.
So their data center operation for that period, for 10 years, is literally a building site, and the data center is secondary, apart from the design, obviously. But no, I understand. Yeah, that's interesting.
But still there will be there are people on all, you know, someone needs to purchase what you're ordering, someone needs to Someone needs to oversee the people, because it is the people that is going to do this. Yeah, so you have all different kinds of positions, and I think from a diversity perspective, as you mentioned, it was quite funny because my manager a year ago put up a picture of our team, and someone commented on in the on LinkedIn that, oh, I see that your diversity, male versus females, are you have 32% instead of 8%, which is the average in the industry at that time. And then I just had to go in and answer and say, oh no, you found our secret sauce, because we don't only have diversity in if it's a man or a woman. We have diversity in age, we have diversity in background, we have diversity in culture, and these aspects makes our team to a really, really brilliant team. Because if you need innovation, and if you are in an environment that are changing really, really fast, you need to have different perspectives to look at things. Otherwise, we're not progressing in the tremendous speed that we need to.
It's that idea of that being curious, having curiosity, having that kind of open mind, that growth mindset, that ability to kind of look at a problem in a different way, come up with solutions, be a problem solver. And I guess, you can't always get that from the same place. It doesn't always come because you've done X job previously necessarily that's been within the sector. Perhaps it comes from outside, as you say, from other kind of critical infrastructure or whatever that might be. But I guess the more we're able to kind of harness that, as you say, the more we're able to achieve, so that there is that kind of that expansive thought, that more ideas to the table, and so on. And certainly we talk about that a lot as well. So it's great to hear you sort of mention that and how you've kind of experienced that yourself, which is great.
Yeah, and I think also, well, we need to get people from other industries. It's like there is no doubt about it, because we cannot find people. There is not enough people in our own industry. But I think it's also so crucial, you as a company, that you really are pushing for this with your clients, because the diversity needs to be there if we are going to survive at all. Because actually we can talk about technological challenges and no power, but if there is no one who can do it, we're really stuck. So yeah, I think this is something.
And that's why we are. That's, I would say, when we look at how we operate, and having a diverse team internally within our business is vital, because we've all got unconscious bias, and if you've got diversity within your supply chain, then you're going to have diversity in the services and the solutions that they provide. And that's very much from a background, mindset, gender, ethnicity, cultural, whatever it might be. And actually, when we look at our figures, not that that's what this is about, but it's related. We have I think something like 42% of the people who we place are from BAME background, which outstrips the average. But when you look at the retention, that's when it drops. So you can put, you can have all the attraction policies and, make sure the supply chain's there. But if you don't build a culture that retains diverse talent, diverse thought, then, as one of our other guests was saying, she was like, it's just a revolving door, or a bucket with holes in, there's, so you've got to look at all of it. So, and where, I suppose, if you're looking at, where that works particularly well, how are the Nordics performing when it comes to diversity of thought and, well, diversity of everything, actually?
Yeah, how to say? I think we are ahead.
Work in progress.
I don't know how to say it in a modest way, but I do believe we're ahead.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, and I think it comes from several aspects. It comes from if we look at diversity, men and women, for example, we can start off with that we have really good ways for childcare. So we can actually have and nowadays it's actually also needed that both the man and the woman, or in the couple that you work, the two of you needs to work to have the same standard of living. So I think that's one thing. When it comes to diversity, to actually look, we have a lot, we can do so much more, but having been worked in different culture and with different teams from different countries, I see that, for example, the way when I was leading my Nordic team, it was a lot around, I needed to, and this is very common, like I need to explain why. So no matter what we did, if I just could explain why to the team, they would be running super fast. But if I would go in and tell them, just do this, almost nothing would happen. Yeah. So it's very purpose driven, and also very collaborative thinking. And I think that comes from that, maybe we're in a region where it's, we have a long distance to the next neighbor. So we need to help each other, and we're kind of programmed in that sense. We need to help each other, and we also have a very trust-based relationship where you kind of agree upon something, and then you do that, you deliver, and you push and you help each other in that sense. And those factors, I think, are key also for a diverse workforce and a diverse way of working.
Yeah, I think that collaboration is key, isn't it? I mean, even though technically one organization might be in competition with another, actually working collaboratively, as you said, through the associations and so on and so forth, is actually how, you can help to, create a bit more diversity of thought and so on and so forth, which in terms of that problem solving piece as well, okay, technically there might be a bit of competition there, but actually working collaboratively, you can achieve so much more. And I suppose, with that in mind as well, I mean, given, your work at Rise, is there anything in particular that you're, excited about over the next few years that you can maybe start to see coming down the line, and actually how that might impact some talent demands as well? Is there anything there that you're particularly excited about that, maybe you can or can't speak about at the moment, but yeah, what are your thoughts there in terms of what's coming next?
Well, first, so there is a lot of talk around AI, and we are in the front, in the front rows of the technology, the development there, looking at how to actually build those, how to support the development of the servers that is ongoing, and the releases, new versions that comes almost only a year in between nowadays, from, of course, right now it's NVIDIA who has 90, I think it was like 94, or somewhere, 90 plus at least of the market share. So the industry needs to keep up on how to actually, then when they arrive, how can you make sure that everything around them works? But I think it's also important to remember that it's so there's this huge race going on, and I think here it's really to just get in there, to put your foot into our industry, and you will be
swept along.
You will be taken with the current, and it will be a fast journey, but super exciting as well. So I think there we will see, and someone are making the joke that we need more plumbers because it's going to be more, well, we're coming to the phase of where it's physically impossible to only cool with air anymore. We need some kind of liquid to cool the future servers. But we also need to remember that it's not just the servers that are going, or the chips that need to be cooled. Everything around it need to be cooled as well. So it's like it's going to be a hybrid cooling. It's both liquid and air for the rest of the equipment that you have there. So the understanding and of these kind of challenges, but it's also on the power side. We see we need more knowledgeable. We need people who know how to handle DC and not just AC, because the industry is, parts of it at least, where they are installing the AI infrastructures needs to go from AC to DC. So that is specific. Well, I think here we just need to educate, like we need to work with the education institutions to make sure the schools to make sure that they are also training people with those kind of skills. But then we also need to remember that there will be a lot of ordinary data centers as well. It's not just going to transfer, so it's purely or only AI data centers. But for sure, it's going to continue like this because the amount of data that needs to be stored, the amount of data that needs to be, processed, it's crazy. I was actually the other day on an AI training just to get my head around it. And when you sit there and you hear someone who is just saying, okay, now you have, how many language models do you think we have that are up and running, like similar to ChatGPT? Okay, there were 500 in the world right now. And then he said, oh, and now there is this tool that you can utilize, and then you can choose, so you can have like 5 or 10, or maybe you want to analyze the same information in all of them. And then I was sitting there. Ooh, holy smoke. Imagine if every individual, like for fun, like private persons, I want to know if I change the roof on my house, how should I build it? And they snap this in, and oh, I don't want just ChatGPT, I want Gemini answer, I want. Imagine the amount of data.
It's exponential.
It's exponential. It's crazy. It's crazy. I had to contact the organizer afterwards and say, you need to think about you need to put in a piece about the sustainability in the beginning of your course. He was like, you need to check it up, but you need to. This was like an Indian company.
Okay. So because there's got to be that responsibility, hasn't there?
So I mean, it continues to be exciting times ahead, basically. And I suppose just to kind of sort of finish off, Isabelle, in terms of advice, thoughts for people out there to consider who maybe they want to get into the space, they want to get into the industry, or maybe actually people that are already within it, but are thinking about their career path and so on. Any sort of words of advice for them?
What we haven't touched upon is the sustainability aspect, and that is actually what I would like to put in as a final thought, because just what I was mentioning in the example previously, we need to find ways of doing this in a sustainable way, and I think that if we all help each other out with reminding ourselves on that, one piece is actually, since the data center itself is using a lot of energy, it becomes a big part of the actual final bills that you're paying for your data center. So it actually has a big impact, no matter if you're an investor or if you're an operator or if you're actually an end customer. But I think we as end customers also need to ask for how do you say, being sane in all of this, and how can we make sure that this stays important.
Like accountability.
And I think from a talent perspective, coming in with this kind of background is also hugely important, but also exciting, because in our industry, given that it is such a big focus on energy efficiency, because it's a big part of the bills, then you can sit, and that's what drives me. I can sit in one room talking to investors and return on investment, and we can talk about, numbers and efficiencies. And then in another room, I can talk about sustainability and these kind of questions, but it actually marries. This time it marries, and we can do something really, really good about this. Keep an eye on profiles that also have something to do with sustainability when you recruit. That's my advice.
Absolutely.
Or
And that's
bring it on to your CV if you're a listener. Oh.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that, there are so many vital roles. So actually, whatever your interest, whatever your career trajectory or plans, there is an opportunity within the sector. But you're absolutely right. Sustainability has got to be, there's got to be a pivotal change, I would say. So that's brilliant. Isabelle, that's been amazing, really, really insightful, thought-provoking, and you've been really generous with your time, and we're really thankful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Isabelle. That's brilliant.
Thank you.